Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Hemmings Hot Rod BBQ. We are here today with co-host Ryan Douthit of Driving Sports TV, and we are going to talk about a very serious topic, something that, let's just say, should be on the thoughts of every motorist out there because it's wintertime and half the country's under 17 feet of snow. Now,
Yep.
I'm not because I live in California, but the rest of y'all are. But as I'm from the East Coast and I grew up in that stuff, I could pity you guys and I could tell you how to get out of it. Ryan, who lives up in Washington and constantly films off-road vehicles in his very own off-road park, he is the master of stuckage and getting unstuck. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about getting you out of the dirt, getting you out of the snow, and getting you home safely, how to prep, how to get unstuck, and so on and so forth. Ryan, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing so good. Yesterday, I was in 6-degree weather on the side of a mountain filming in the snow. And 4 days ago, I was in 0 degrees weather. And by the way, I found out something very, very interesting about my own body.
Your own self?
My own self. I look like at 0 degrees, my ears will hurt in 10 minutes. But at 6 degrees, I can pretty much shoot all day long. My ears don't hurt. So that's my line right there. So 5 degrees and under, I'm wearing head wraps. I don't care. At that point, fashion's out the window. Yeah, no more baseball caps. It's time for full beanie. Wrap that, towel around the head. Get extra layers there. I'm good at 0. But at 5, I'll be wearing a t-shirt, shorts, and I'll be filming outside.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that one aspect right now. As the country is freezing right now, right? There are a lot of places in the Northeast and the Northwest, in most of the country.
Yep.
Frigid temperatures, sub-zero. We're talking minus 10-degree wind chills, stuff like that. Let's talk about just when you're going out, and this is on a daily basis, okay? Think about what you have to have in your car and what you should have. This is prior to getting stuck. This is just to keep you safe.
2 things that I really want to mention because I see them all the time, especially on Facebook, where you have aunts and uncles and some people who maybe they don't know too much about their car, whatever.
Yeah.
But there are people who basically your tire pressures will automatically lower because it's colder. Colder air is not as big. So as soon as you get in your car, if you have a modern car, as soon as you start rolling down the road and those TPMS, those tire pressure sensors kick in, it'll probably tell you that you have low tire pressure. I see people freak out about this all the time. And honestly, it's fine. They typically trigger at around 30 PSI. Most vehicles are stock. If you have the dealer fill your air, they're going to fill them to 37 or 50 if they're
depending on the dealer. Yeah.
Depending on who was there that was doing it. Although trucks should be around 50, but it depends on the vehicle. But so basically in your user guide, you will show how much tire pressure you need. And how much tire pressure need can be very important for when you're driving. But you're going to get these sensors going off simply because of a lack of pressure. And honestly, if you're rolling around at 28 PSI, you'll be fine.
You're fine.
You don't need to immediately get out and fix the situation. I would say, if it gets super cold and you're down to 27, 28, or you're already on the low side, you're probably fine with that if you're around town. If I was driving to Portland, which is a 3-hour drive from where I am, I'd probably maybe add some air for the freeway because that's going to, not be great for MPGs and you kind of want to, get the best life out of your time, that kind of stuff. But that is something a lot of people will see as soon as they get in their vehicle, which is interesting. And then also you have the issue, if you have a battery that's not 100%, it will take a battering with low temperatures. And so your battery may be dead. So those basically before you even drive your vehicle, I would recommend just giving a look around on the outside so you know for sure when you're flying down the freeway at 50 and you finally get that TPMS light come on, you can be like, no, I looked at the tires, they're fine. And just keep on driving. And then the other thing is also, be prepared, have jumper cables if it's super cold.
Yeah.
You need to jump your car.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. There are these contraptions. They're called battery tenders and/or trickle chargers. If you live in a place with frigid temperatures and you're fortunate enough to have a garage to keep your car, okay, these garages will get down to sub-zero temperatures. And like Ryan said, your batteries will be tapped. You'll start your car in the morning and you will feel the battery. The battery will.
We all know that. It's like, and you're like, come on, one more.
Right. Right. Not the sound you want to hear in no degrees. So If you can, you could get them on Amazon. There's a company called Battery Tender, along with a ton of others, where it's
Mhm.
literally just a dongle that you hook up to your battery. They're two alligator clips. You plug it into the wall. It will always keep your battery at a constant state of charge. And the other point on that is it will not overcharge. When your battery is fully charged, it will simply just trickle or slow charge it to maintain the battery's power, right?
Yeah,
So that's something you want to do. Now,
those are great.
also, they're fantastic little units. And they're cheap. They're like 25 bucks for the real simple ones. It's like, and you just go buy one. Now,
Mhm.
if you find yourself and you are out in the cold or your car stays outside and it's covered in snow, get yourself a jump box, okay? An
Mhm.
actual battery powered jump box. These are boxes that will give you a bunch you want to get something with like 750 cold cranking amps, right? Something that will jumpstart your battery. Now, these are portable battery packs that you plug into your 110 outlet at home.
And they're pretty small now,
Pretty
because they're
small.
lithium ion. I have one that's
Yep.
like this big that I just carry in my truck. It's about this
Hmm.
tall, that big, and you just plug it in and bam, it'll give 2 or 3 cold starts. And
Yeah.
it works great.
Yep. And they're wonderful items. You definitely want to, those are a little more expensive. Those you're probably talking about 60 bucks and up,
But it's
for a good
still, it's
one.
like
But
how
it
to fill up a gas tank these days is 60 to 80 bucks.
well,
So it's
that's
like it's
just it.
one fill.
Exactly. And you need to put it in that perspective, right? This is something
Yeah.
where if you don't have it and your battery is dead, well, now you're waiting for somebody to help you. Now you're waiting for AAA or somebody to come jump. You could be hours on the side of the road where you could literally buy one of these jump packs, keep it in your car, and that will help you out tremendously.
I love how this episode is just basically threading. You say something and it's like, oh, also, AAA. If it's winter
Oh,
time, if there's a storm, you're going to be in line if you have a problem. So you pretty much
correct.
need to be self-sufficient in cold weather. Once the temperature drops, especially if snow hits the ground, especially if it's not an area that gets snow all the time, like where I live,
Hmm.
um, the AAA is going to be busy. Every tow truck's going to be busy
That's
for
right.
hours. So you are on your own. So maybe we should segue with that as you're driving along, boom, snowstorm hits you.
Now,
Your
what was the
vehicle
thing that
is
you were
having issues.
supposed to check? Yeah. So here's the thing. Before you leave your house, we're going to just go over a plethora of products today and stuff. Make sure go to the supermarket, go to the hardware store, go wherever.
Mhm.
Make sure your window washer bottle is full. Okay,
Yeah, and
because
not of straight water because
no,
that
it'll
will
freeze
freeze
it out.
immediately. I know a lot of people do that, and it's like, especially in the winter
No,
months, cannot do that.
no. The window washer fluid has solvents in it that are specifically formulated to melt the ice. Put
Mhm.
that in and make sure it's always full. The other thing is you're going to be using them a lot. You will be shocked at how fast you drain that reservoir. So get an extra gallon, stick it in the back of your car, and just keep it there. Keep it
Mhm.
there. The other thing you want an ice scraper, you want a brush because you could go, many places around the country. You'll go in and it might be a decent day. You might go into work. You might come out. You might have, 4 or 5 inches of snow on the front of your car. You
And
got
for
to
the love
get that
of
off.
God, take that snow off the top of the car before you
Oh,
roll in. Nobody
God.
likes to have a large clump of snow come off your car and into our windshields while we're driving.
Correct.
That
That
sucks.
is
So you don't want to get one of those little shorty sticks. You definitely
no.
want the long one with the brush on it so you can reach over
Mhm.
the top and brush off of it. And honestly, I don't care if your paint is pristine. If you're going out in the ice and snow, it's not going to be perfect. So
Right.
use the brush, please.
Use
You're
the
not going to
brush.
be damaging your paint so badly. All apologies to Larry Casilla, our mutual friend, who probably is going to pull out his hair hearing me say
Hmm.
that. But you know what,
Yeah,
Larry?
it is what it is,
Sorry.
brother. Yeah. Let's also talk about four main things. Actually, they're called your tires. Now,
Yeah.
this is a great one.
Well,
All
I could do an
season
hour on this.
tires. Oh, dude. Let's talk about three different types of tires. No, four different types. Let's talk about summer tires. You know where summer tires don't belong? In the winter. You know why?
Yeah.
Because they don't work at
So
all.
I got a story about it. We're going to do a little story on each tire because,
Hmm.
okay, so I was showing a car at SEMA show. It was a race modified Subaru 2.5 RS, and this is probably 2005 or something.
Hmm.
What I'm trying to say was I was really young and I
Yeah,
didn't know any better. But I was at SEMA show in November. It never snows in the Northwest in
correct.
November, or rarely, very rare. And so I go to SEMA. I'm there for a week. I didn't look a week ahead at the
Hmm.
forecast. I'm driving back from Las Vegas to Seattle. I'm going over Natchez Pass, which is just north of Yakima. In my mind, I don't even consider that a mountain pass, frankly. It's
Hmm.
short and it's but technically it starts at 2,000 feet. So it,
Right.
it it goes up to 4. It's about the same height as our Snoqualmie Pass, which is our big pass. But well, actually, Snoqualmie is 3,000 feet. Anyway, point being, snowstorm just dumps, and I'm on our compounds. So not just summer tires, track tires, and they close the pass, so we have to go through the mountain road at the bottom, and it's ice and it's sketchy. I actually hit a rock. But thank goodness I had a big skid plate on the bottom of the car because I built a race car with a skid plate because
sure,
Subaru. Wedged the car off the rock with a crowbar, which I happen to have. So I did have that. Got the rock out of the way, get onto I-90. And by this point, I-90 is a skating rink. And I'm driving along. Everybody's getting in line on I-90, and we're trying to get over the pass before the pass shuts down. And the biggest problem over the pass is the fact that truckers try to save 10 minutes so they don't put chains on, and they always they basically get sideways and fall off the road. Every day this happens. But anyway, so we're all in line and we're creeping along at 5 miles per hour, and I'm in my Subaru with our compounds. All-wheel drive only gets you so far. So I'm driving, I'm thinking, okay, I got this. I'm 5 miles per hour. I can do the whole pass at 5 miles per hour.
Until somebody stops.
No. The road kind of slightly did this, and the car just started doing this. So I'm doing a pirouette on I-90, world's slowest pirouette, by the way. It was like 5 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And the car just, I'm adding throttle, I'm adjusting, nothing. It's doing nothing. Anything I do did not matter. The car just slowly goes towards the ditch and stops.
Yeah.
I was able to actually, I had a guy get out, push. We went back into line, and we slowly marched forth. So what I'm trying to say is that there is something as like a lot of people will say, bro, I grew up in Michigan. I can drive anything in the snow. Fact is, you have zero grip. With zero grip, nobody can drive anywhere reliably. Now, yes, can you get through it? Yes. Like I was able to drive over the pass, and I got home that night, which was important because there were no hotels. Like everything was booked because there's not that many hotels there, and it's middle of nowhere, and boom, snowstorm. But that was terrifying. And really it was revealing. It was a revelation for me, because I was pretty cocky as a driver, and I was like, oh, I can drive anything. It doesn't really matter. But zero grip is not something you have control over at all. You're in God's hands as to whether or not you're getting to your location. And frankly, I don't like those odds. I would rather, well,
this is when you talk about the difference, right? Our compound tires they're summer tires, right? They're very soft compound. They're not cement. They harden up tremendously and turn into hockey pucks in the cold weather. Then you come to the all-season tire, which an all-season tire is not a snow tire. An all-season tire it gives you enhanced traction in the wet. It gives you marginally enhanced traction in the snow and light snow, and really and decent traction in the dry. But it is not a snow tire. Off-road tires are not snow tires.
Before we move, there's actually one more tire in between those. There's the all-weather tire, which is different. Because that then adds siping to the all-season tire and has a compound that doesn't harden up in lower temperatures. All-weather tires aren't terribly popular here in the U.S. for some reason, much more popular in Europe. But there's something that if you do live in a cold area, but you're really, either you don't have the budget to buy nice tires for both seasons, it's kind of a nice compromise tire that won't basically strand you if it gets snowy, but if you're driving in snow all the time, you should just go up to a winter tire at that point.
And here's the thing, a good snow tire is just that. And there are different grades of snow tires. You can have something like a Blizzak tire, which has really deep sipes in it, really soft tread. It's made to run in the snow. You could go a step further.
I love it.
Oh, they're great. Then you could get a studded tire. Which will give you more traction. So basically what we're trying to say is if you live in an area that you are encountering snow, a lot of snow, it is worth it to basically invest in another set of wheels for your car. If you could do that and you have the room to store it, and just make them winter wheels with snow tires, because you will get to where you want to go and you will do it safely, as opposed to trying to cheap out. And I don't want to say cheap out because listen, extra wheels and tires, it's an expensive proposition.
Also, however, I get it. The people who don't want to buy dedicated Snow
Yeah,
tires, I get it. Living in Washington State is a great example because in Western Washington, we get maybe 1 to 2 days of snow a year, maybe. And that's a big maybe. And they're typically pockets of snow, not, it doesn't
yeah,
blanket the whole area. And so, but a lot of people go over the mountains to either go skiing or they're
sure,
visiting their kid over to Eastern Washington universities, well, the mini universities over there. So anyway, or they're going to a vacation cabin. Doesn't really
sure.
matter. But basically, people from Western Washington might go over the pass once or twice a year. And at that point, you're like, people are like, you should definitely own winter tires. It's like $1,200 for one day. I
Right.
mean, I get it that people don't do that. Now, I have the unusual job where I review cars, of course, and car
Mhm.
manufacturers do not allow us to change tires on the production vehicles that are provided to us. We have to
Right.
drive with the tires we get. The nice thing about that is it gives a really good example. It gives me a really good impression of
Sure.
all of these different types of tires in different conditions. Because, hey, if I want to shoot a snow video and they give me a car with all seasons, I'm taking it to the snow.
That's
Thank you very
right.
much. And because people in the Northwest, and I think in parts of the Northeast as well, do that. It's like you buy your car, that's your car. The tires that come with it are the tires that you have, and those are the ones you use.
Right.
So, yeah, all seasons, all terrains, and then winter tires. Very rarely do we get winter tires, although it's nice that Mercedes
Right.
does provide us with winter tires. But there's kind of this. So all-terrain tires have several designations. So you have your class
Mhm.
attire. Below that, you have designations. You have an M plus S, which is the mud plus snow, which I believe
Right.
I can only speak to Washington State laws about passes when talking about that, but I believe Washington State sees those as traction tires if they have the M plus S designation, which a real driver would be like, not really, because an M plus S is just the
Right. Yeah.
bare minimum for snow
Bare
and
minimum.
absolute bare minimum. The next designation is called a 3-peak rating, and that's been all the rage lately. Because if you buy like Falcon Wild Peaks, very popular all-terrain tire, you can
Mhm.
get those if you buy them from a tire dealer. They have the 3-peak designation, and that only indicates about 10% better in snow. The only thing that
Right.
helps you with ice are studs. And that's something I think a lot of
Right.
people don't realize. If you don't have little
Correct.
metal nails sticking out your tires, nothing is going to help you in ice. And
Correct.
that's
And
a tough one.
honestly, if that's the case and you think that's the weather, stay home.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Just stay
absolutely.
home. I mean, here's the other part about
Or
winter driving, right?
chains work on ice too. So those are
Yeah,
good.
you do have to in part use your brain, that big squishy thing that sits between your ears. So
Come on,
this
we've been on
is
the road. We know very few people.
well, yeah, it's one of those things where if you can not go to a destination and you can forego driving in crappy weather,
Mhm.
don't do it. You don't
Yeah.
need to do it if you can avoid it. The other part is if you have tires, say you're running a car with all season tires and those tires have a lot of mileage on them, they're
Mhm.
not going to do anything. The tread is going to be
You need the
worn out.
depth.
It's
Yeah,
you
you need
need
the
the
depth of the
depth,
tread. Mhm.
right? So you need that, and the other part is you have to be prepared for the stuff that's in your vehicle. I knew when I lived in the Northeast, what was the stuff that I had? I always had some kind of small shovel. I always
Do
had
you have a bag of kitty litter with you?
I had I did. I had a bag of kitty litter with me, right? I always had a brush. I always had an ice scraper. And these
Mhm.
are things that, listen, man, you put them in a duffel bag, you stick them in the back of your car, and you keep them there. And at the end of the
Yep.
season, you take them out and you stuff them in the garage and you put them away. But if you don't have that, and like Ryan said, anybody who's driving in the winter, if there's an accident, even if you have, services like AAA or on-road assistance,
Mhm.
they are going to be so backed up that you
If they
might
can
be
even get
sitting
to
on the
you.
road if they
Yeah,
can get to you.
if you're stuck in a blizzard backup, nobody's getting to you. Make sure you
No,
have a
for
good gas.
hours.
Never try to go
Gas,
over the mountain
clothes.
pass down to with a quarter tank. Always
No,
assume that you're going to be stuck somewhere, because
right.
if you assume you're going to be stuck, you'll never be sad. You know,
Well,
I mean, like,
and that's actually true. And here's the other part. How about some clothes? Let's
yeah,
talk about that for a second, right? If it's freezing, you're just like, I'm just going to the supermarket. I could just throw my flip-flops on. Listen, just always have that jacket, always have those
Yeah.
gloves, always have those things in your vehicle. Because the fact of the matter is they don't take up a lot of room, but if you get stuck, my God, can they help you out?
You know, I pulled somebody out of a snowbank probably it was a few years ago. They had a new Mazda, I think it was a CX-9, and they were
Mhm.
going up a forest road where I happened to be filming. And they got stuck because they went into too deep of snow and they literally just high centered
Just
their
high
car.
centered.
Little
Yeah.
wheels were trying to get it. There was nothing to get. And like one of the people in the car, like they didn't have a jacket. They, they
Yeah.
didn't they didn't plan on getting stuck. Well, nobody ever plans on getting stuck. And to
Correct.
further that point, if you are going off the beaten path, and that does not mean mountain roads, that just means if it's snowing and you're going to some road that may not have been
Side
plowed or
streets.
treated, yeah, side streets. There's a few more things that I always bring with me. I throw a shovel in because
Yep.
with a shovel you can pretty much always get yourself out. You might be digging
Correct.
for an hour, but
But you can do it.
it's doable. I have little traction boards that I bring, which I've had mixed results with because if it's slippery, they can't usually grab, but I always bring them anyway.
Right.
And then I also bring an air compressor. And the reason for that is there's this little magic thing you can do with
Now
tires.
keep in mind, but when Ryan says air compressor, he's not talking about a 4-gallon air compressor that sits in your garage.
Oh, no, no, no. This is a portable lithium ion powered. It uses
Correct.
actually, I use a DeWalt that uses a DeWalt battery. And
Yep.
all the major battery brands make one of these little portable things. And make sure you have the right tip because they usually don't ship with the tips. You have to buy those separately. But basically, what it gives me the opportunity to do is if I'm in really dicey condition, in fact, I just had to do this yesterday. Trying to test an all-wheel drive system, it couldn't get me up the hill high enough. So I basically said, okay, fine. Well, let's reduce tire pressures. If you take a tire pressure from the stock 30 down to about 18, you actually gain a lot of grip. Now, you don't want to drive at high speeds with that. And you also don't want to drive in like too fast over rugged conditions because you can pop a bead if you do that. But if all you're doing is trying to climb up a hill and you're keeping speeds under 30 miles an hour, it changes your footprint from like this to like this. It gives you so much more grip on the ground. And like guys who are like really hardcore, sometimes they'll bring the pressure all the way down to 1, but you need special rims for that. That is not something any normal production tire, so long as it actually has a decent amount of sidewall. I'm not talking about these little rubber bands they put on Volkswagens, but I'm talking like proper sidewall. Those ones you can usually get down to 18 psi, no problem.
Yeah,
and
and
you
that's
use
safe.
it just by pushing in your finger. I also got these really, since we're talking about products, also I got these really cool things.
Yeah, a lot of it is really being prepared for the snow, which unfortunately so many people are not.
These things are great. You want to air down all 4 of your tires without having to stand outside going.
Yep.
These are preset to 18 psi.
Oh, neat. Now, who makes those, Ryan? And then what do they do? They screw on?
They screw on to your valve stems. You basically just take all your caps off. I have 4 of these. They come in this handy little pack. And each of these are preset to 18 psi. And I can change the target pressure if I want to. And basically, they just release. And as soon as they hit 18, they shut off. So you're sitting in your car, nice, warm, and cozy, while your pressures are going down. Your car just goes. And then you can watch on your little gauge cluster as it hits 18, and then they turn off. Walk out, take them off, put the caps back on. A bunch of companies make these. These are like the OG ones from like a specialty company in Australia called Stawn. But they're available on Amazon. You can get them for like between $50 and $100 for a set. But they're really cool, super simple. And if you do find yourself going off road a lot, in the snow, I personally, these are my favorite thing ever.
Let's see. Oh, another thing.
Christmas list for like 3 years. Nobody bought them for me, so I finally just bought them myself.
Dude, sometimes you got to pull the trigger. You know,
you just got it. Santa.
Sometimes you got to pull the trigger.
Doesn't always listen.
No. So another thing that you might want to have, and again, we might be going a little overboard here, but the reason I think we are is because we've been driving for a long time. We've been in every kind of stuck and unstuck
a lot of situations, a lot of suckage, standing out there going,
"Oh, it's not good." So think of it like this. And again, the beauty of things like Amazon is you can get any of these things and ship them to yourself, right? Get yourself a good first aid kit. Get yourself a set of road flares. Now, if you go on Amazon or you go into any auto parts store worth their beans, you're going to get, you basically want a roadside assistance kit. In that roadside assistance kit, odds are they will have a little first aid kit. They will have roadside flares. They will have collapsible, um,
Little
road
triangles.
triangles. Yep.
Yep.
So that people can see your reflective triangles, things like that. You want to have that. The other part is when you leave your house, make sure your car has fuel. Do not wait until the day before you're going anywhere to fill up. And the reason I say this is if you're driving in these weather conditions, odds are you're going to get some place that's going to have a blackout where the power is going to go out. Power goes
Yep.
out, odds are the fuel stations lose power and you can't fill up. And
Yeah, it's
you
not
do
just
not,
EVs.
no, it's not. Yeah. I mean, you really want to try to mitigate yourself being stuck.
Yeah.
Um, because that's
Oh,
the thing.
and
You really want to try to push through that.
to that point, there was one more thing I always carry with me, and that's a tow strap. And that's not
Oh,
for me
sure.
to tow people out necessarily. That's for me to get towed out because you could be stuck on the side of the road or you could slide into a ditch super easy. And you might have somebody come by in a big truck who's like, dude, I'll pull you out. And you're like, yeah, nobody has a tow strap. So
Right. And bungee
it's a
cords
small
aren't
bag I
the answer.
carry. I just
Yep.
throw it in whenever I go out. It's great.
Yep.
Of course, all these things, eventually you fill up the whole back of all your supplies, but
You do, but again,
important.
for winter driving, here's the
Yeah.
thing, man. Like we could talk about winter driving for hours, but there are certain things, right? One, you make sure you have the correct set of tires on the car for the
Mhm.
weather conditions that are generally in your area.
First and
Two,
foremost.
full tank of fuel. Always
Yep.
make sure you get a full tank or at least above a half a tank of fuel in your car before you go anywhere. Three, dress warm, right?
Mhm.
Always have those extra clothes, those gloves, those hats in the cars where you might need them. Oh, good.
Sorry, that reminds me is that you and I are from the generation where not all the cars were 100% reliable. So that actually goes back to the fact that, like, we used to when we were younger, the cars we got were
Sure.
pretty much garbage. So you never knew if you were going to get to your destination. So it just became a habit. Like, well, I'm throwing a coat in, even though I'm driving 20
Well,
minutes away because the
here's the
car may
thing.
not make it, but I am.
You have to. So tomorrow, I'll give everybody an example. Tomorrow, I am driving from San Francisco down to Los Angeles in a 68 Charger, right? That's a 55-year-old vehicle. Now, now this is, I'm not going to encounter
Mike,
snow.
don't break anybody's dreams here, Mike. You're going to have throwing horns out the window the whole time and doing a
Well,
burnout all
dude,
the way down I-5.
here's the thing. It's like there are things that you want to bring. So for a car like that, and again, I know it's going to rain 90% of the way, right? I checked the weather. So what am I
Mhm.
going to do before I leave? I'm going to make sure I'm going to carry a couple of gallon extra fuel in the rear of the car because I'm going to be going big stretches with no gas stations. I'm
Yep.
going to check the tire pressures, make sure they're all set before I leave. I'm going to carry an extra quart of oil, a little can of power steering fluid, a couple of belts. Again, 50. This is an antique, right? And we're
Throw a spare
driving it in the
engine in the
next.
back.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, but again, it all comes down to preparation. And
Mhm.
if you know you're going on a trip, whether it's a new car or you're in an old car, you can really put the odds in your favor if you have the correct equipment with you. You don't have to keep it in there all the time. When you're home and you're driving around town, who cares? Take it out. If you're going on road trips, if you're going to weather that might affect your car's performance or your performance as a human being, because the cold does that, you
Right.
know, just try to be smart about it, right? Listen to this, go online, buy the right equipment to have in your car, wear the right clothes, get the fuel, get the scrapers, get the tires, all that fun stuff. I promise you, if you never need to use it, God bless you. But if you use it only one time, you will be the happiest person in the
You
world.
will be like, I'm always doing that. And I think that's probably where you and I come from on this whole thing is that we've been in those situations where you're like, oh, guess I'm spending the night here.
Hmm.
So you're like, only I had a blanket with me.
Oh, I'll tell you, it never ends. That's
Yeah.
it really doesn't. So everybody, just if you're gonna go out, be safe out there, prepare your car, prepare yourself, get the clothes, all that other and all the equipment. Um, and that's it. Be safe. Ryan, thanks for coming on and talking about
Thanks for
unstucking
having me as
people and
always.
guys, this is our winter episode. Take heed, listen to it 3 or 4 times so it burns into your skull. And that's it for this one. We'll see you next time on the Hot Rod Barbecue.
See ya.
Thanks for listening, folks. And again, please subscribe to the Hot Rod Barbecue podcast. If you're on Spotify, check us out there. Subscribe to it on iTunes. And if you are going to go to YouTube, make sure you go to the Hot Rod Barbecue podcast and hit that subscribe button. And we'll come to you every week.